Despite ceasefire in place, war continues in Lebanon. Hundreds of people are dead and thousands injured. Talks are taking place in Washington. But the question is, can Hezbollah be disarmed? Hezbollah is part of the political structure of Lebanon. Can it be militarily defanged? Modern Lebanon was formed after independence from French Mandate rule in 1943. But its political foundations date back to 1920, when Greater Lebanon was carved out of the Ottoman Empire under French administration. From the beginning, it was designed as a multi-religious state. Maronite Christians formed the largest group at nearly 40%, while Sunni and Shia Muslims each made up to close 30%. The balance was formalized in 1943 through the National Pact, which locked in sect-based power sharing. President as Maronite Christian, Prime Minister as Sunni Muslim, and Speaker of Parliament as Shia Muslim. But regional wars soon disrupted the arrangement. The arrival of large Palestinian refugees populations after 48 and 67 altered Lebanon's demographic and political equations, intensifying sectarian fault lines and increasing pressure on the state. As Palestinian militant groups launched attack on Israel from Lebanese territory, Israel responded with cross-border strikes, including the 1968 Beirut airport raid. Over time, armed Palestinian factions, Christian militia and Muslim groups became locked in, escalating confrontation and pushing Lebanon into a prolonged civil war. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon, aiming to expel the PLO and reshape the security landscape. While the PLO withdrew, Israel's continued presence in southern Lebanon deepened resistance among the Shia population. It was in this vacuum that the Hezbollah emerged, backed by Iran and rooted in Shia communities in southern Lebanon and Beirut suburbs, evolving rapidly into a structured armed movement. By 1985, Israeli forces had been pushed back to the Litani River, and 2000, Israel fully withdrew from the southern Lebanon. Over the decades, Hezbollah has expanded from an armed resistance group into a political actor, entering Lebanon's parliament in 1992 and steadily increasing its influence. Today, Hezbollah functions both as a political and military force inside Lebanon and has once again come into direct confrontation with Israel after the October 7th Hamas attack, raising fears that Lebanon could once again become a major theater in a wider regional war. So my question to my two esteemed guests would be, can Hezbollah remain a political actor only? Can it be demilitarized? Or it's just impossible? I'm joined by Major General Sudhakarji in LAPH, Director International Relations, Israel and Defense Security Forums. He joined me from Israel. Thank you both of you for joining me. I'll go to LA first. Is it possible defang the military wing and the political wing remains? Is it possible, or the entire Hezbollah has to be done away with? Your assessment, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me again. I would say I don't think it's possible that there can be a Hezbollah that is benign, that is constructive. It's been too long embedded into the population, into the psyche. And frankly, I don't think the Lebanese people would trust, let alone Israel. I don't think the Lebanese people would trust having a benign Hezbollah, which really is a volcano that could erupt at any time. Even if they want to hibernate for a certain amount of time, at some point it will come again. That's not something that I don't think the Lebanese people want. Certainly the Israelis don't want, and anybody who wants stability in the Middle East could not want that.
Okay. General Sudhakarji, how is this problem going to be resolved? Because one, it is a military force, it's a terrorist organization, it attacks Israel, but it's also embedded in their political structure. How do you deal with it? Because there has been a similar experience which the world has noticed. Iraq, de-Baathification took place, 30% of them, went on to join ISIS. Mosul was taken over, entire Syria, entire northern part got completely destabilized. So it's like a devil's choice. What do you do with that?
Firstly, Kartika, good evening. Thank you for inviting me for your show. And my very warm greetings to very distinguished co-panelists. Secondly, I wish to compliment you. Out of all the mainstream channels, your channel is the only channel which is putting things in perspective by making an all-out effort to go back in time, investigate, examine the history, and bringing out the relevant issues so that people have a better understanding. Now, coming to the question which you have asked, before I respond to your question, I want to extend my sincere apologies for having articulated yesterday putting Hezbollah as a non-entity political representative, which was incorrect on my part. Maybe there are far too many back-to-back channels, so each channel was dealing with Hezbollah, so I had given one part in short time. It's very difficult to explain. But suffice to say, at some point in time, Hezbollah did not have an identity as a political representative. At some point in time, they came into prominence by virtue of the the anarchy kind of a situation which was there in Lebanon. So if you take your mind back to the genesis of Hezbollah, then actually there will be a lot of clarity. Is it possible? Not possible. So I would respond to your question under two heads. Ideally speaking, this is what we are looking for, desirable. But realistically speaking, the very name of Hezbollah has come about based on a paradigm of security imperative. It is to provide that, not assertion, the security to the people who are of Shiite dominance in that sector, and more so, they have got lineage with PLO. If the genesis of Hezbollah has to be understood well, I would say partly, to large an extent, PLO. It is because of aggressive activities launched by Israel, and like you have very rightly said, PLO started invading sometime in 1978 or 80s, early 80s, because I read this history long back when I was dealing with the subject. The PLO had invaded, come across Litani River and invaded the settlements of northern Israel. They had killed 37 people in one operation at one night. That operation is to be called Black September or something like that. I don't remember now. Because of which Israelis took a vow that come what may, they will do or die, but they will avenge themselves. Since then, it has been carrying on. So if you see the real genesis, PLO, Israel, bouncing back, hitting them hard, and thereafter carrying on, sometime in 1989, they came into a semblance of political entity because that 15-year revolution which took place in Lebanon, because of multiple factors and sectarian violence, they started being supported by none other than Iran. Iran's support had started off in 1882. But material support in substantive form started coming to Hezbollah, and Hezbollah at the same time had attained the status of a political entity. Material support was coming from Iran, and that is how they started becoming a formidable force, and they are the ones which are a dreaded organization as of today. And the question which you have asked, whether it is doable or not, ideally speaking, yes, but realistically speaking, I would say for a military man, there is never like no, nothing is impossible. Only thing that we need to have an approach on a spectrum of short term, medium term, or long term. Short term should be to contain the situation. Medium term should be 5 to 10 years, counter it, go about doing it in a systematic manner, and long term should be to root it out from the root of the organization. When you talk about the root of the organization, Hezbollah has got a militant outfit. It is that militant outfit which has been banned by United Nations, if I remember correctly, yes, by many countries. That militant organization has to be addressed in a square, comprehensive and bold manner by choking at the following things. First, the funds. The fund, where are they getting the funds from? Number two, communication. They have an excellent command control organization which is working as an effective counter strategy to counter the strategy of Israeli army. They have studied Israeli army right since 47-48, and now they have come out. Like the way Iran has actually gone in for mosaic defense, similarly Hezbollah has gone in for such kind of countermeasure which is very difficult to be negated or neutralized. Third and most important thing is their leadership ladder. The leadership, despite the knockdown effect that is happening, they are at multiple levels. If one leader goes, you have the second one. Second one goes, the third one. Okay, the line of succession is there.
That is why that's the question I raised. Then how do you deal with it? Because you are not dealing with a military force. It has got a, it's like hybrid. They have got layers within the society. Someone might be a doctor but be sympathizing with the Hezbollah and would be doing some sort of a work for their fighters, but will not be a terrorist in the day, but would be running the clinic for them. When that sort of architecture comes into shape, it becomes very solid, very difficult to dismantle. Isn't
Absolutely.
that?
It is
if that question is meant for me, Karthikeya, is it meant for me or for
the question is meant for both of you. I'll take first response from LA and then the question to you also.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is a huge question, and I think again need to look back at Iran. Both Israel and the U.S., when the attack on Iran began, one of the goals was to create the terms or the situation, the conditions for regime change. It wasn't going to create regime change, it's going to create the terms, the conditions for it. And I think the same thing when Israel is looking at its war with Hezbollah, it's creating the conditions so that the Lebanese army and the Lebanese government can assert themselves. How so? It's I agree with my colleague that your history of what is happening here is really helpful in educating the audience and educating everybody about this situation. One of the graphics that I've seen was that initially Hezbollah had about 8 members of the parliament. Now it's up to 62. It would seem to the general public, somebody who's not as familiar, that shows broad support. What actually it shows in a societies that are used to and respect democracy, that is exactly how you would interpret moving from 8 to 62 votes. When you have a society that doesn't respect democracy, doesn't respect rule of law, all they respect is violence and strength and power, what that shows is that there are many people in Lebanon who are petrified of going against Hezbollah. They want Hezbollah to know that we voted for you. Leave us alone. Don't bother us. However, when we're moving to a situation when there is a real chance that Iran might be destroyed, when we look to the south, we see Hamas is being destroyed. Iran, there may be regime change. All of a sudden, it starts becoming clear that Hezbollah is on life support. They may live on for a little bit longer, like you said. Their number 1 or the number 2 is no longer in charge. It's number 3 or number 4. There's a reason why a month ago they were just number 4. They weren't number 1. And they won't be able to continue for so long. They're not going to be getting the funds from Iran to reinforce, to rebuild, to restructure. There's starting to be a sense in the region, in the Middle East, that Iran's machinations and what they were doing to destabilize the region is starting to end. And that will give confidence to those in Lebanon to do the very difficult thing. It will not be easy to eliminate and to extricate Hezbollah from society, because as you said, they are everywhere. But it will give them a confidence to do so, and this is the time to do so.
Sudhakarji.
As a strategy or counter strategy to find a lasting solution, I'm saying about the lasting solution, not a short-term solution. Ceasefire or no ceasefire, we have to approach it in a multi-pronged manner. Multi-pronged means one is the military component, the other is the political component, the third is the economic component, the fourth is the very important component. It is neither socio-economic nor any other issue. Trust building. How do you, confidence building is very, very important. How do you build confidence with a stakeholder who's so inimical? The birth of that, the genesis of Hezbollah is based on one factor. They want to eliminate. They want to wipe out Israel from the face of the earth. How do you build, how do you bring them to the talking point of normalcy, no hate, no casting aspersion, no negativity? That is going to actually put the entire mankind into some kind of a soul searching. This is not the problem here only with Lebanon or the Hezbollah and Israel. This is the problem all over. Ukraine, Russia, Iran, America. So the new world order would do something by going in for some measure as a long-term measure. This is, the education has to be tackled. The society in Lebanon has to be tackled. There is a responsibility in the role of Lebanon society. Why have they accommodated Hezbollah? Why have they given them the political identity? Why are they supporting? Why are they allowing them to come to the border and keep firing at the Israelis? They also hold some responsibility, and that all these things put together will come under a multi-pronged, a comprehensive approach, short, medium, and long term, at multiple levels, at the global level, at the regional level, at the local level. Then you come on to the societal level. The non-government organizations, there are plenty of them who are operating. They are being funded by multiple means, by encrypted form. Some funds are not accounted for. That is how they build money and their architecture to fight against the Israel. This comprehensiveness is actually going to be giving the answer.
LA, very quickly, closing comment from you. Do you think that this buffer is going to remain for a long time in Lebanon?
I think the buffer zone will remain as long as Lebanon is not able to remove Hezbollah.
Once how deep
Lebanon
is this buffer?
Hezbollah,
because there are conflicting reports, sir. How deep is this buffer?
Right now, it goes to the Litani River. It could go potentially further. because right now there are still missiles. Even as I was getting on the show, there are missiles that were coming from Hezbollah into northern Israel just a few moments ago. That is not stopping. But at the same time, Israel and Lebanon are starting to have discussions about normalization. So that's happening at the same time, and that is part of it is Hezbollah has always prevented those discussions from happening. Now that's happening while Hezbollah is attacking. It demonstrates that there is a huge schism between what Lebanon wants and what Hezbollah wants. One's shooting, one's talking about normalization and peace. There's hope.
Let's hope that there is some sort of at least resolution. The conversation continues, and at least there is some pause in the operation, both in the Iran theatre and Lebanon theatre. Thank you both of you for joining me.